Just needed to check in about the current state of shock that I'm in a good way. A quick reading break because I have a very exciting package. If you're a veteran on my channel, you know how terrified I get of sci-fi. And so the fact that this is leaning a little bit more sci-fi, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. 12 5-star reads this year. This is my favorite book so far of 2024. Hello besties, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori if you're new, and this week I am reading the books that y'all picked out for me. Two things. Number one, I'm very close to being super duper caught up on my physical TBR, which is absolutely insane, number one. Number two, these books didn't have a super coherent theme, so I figured why not let y'all pick out my books for me this week and I will read whatever you told me to. If you don't follow me on Instagram, that is where I posted these polls, so make sure you go follow me on Instagram. It is always linked in the description box below. Let's go through what the choices were and what won. I did try to be a bit cryptic with the emojis that I picked for each poll because I didn't want y'all to be able to like super straightforwardly guess what each poll was. However, I think that some were a bit obvious. We'll see. Let me know if you voted down below in the comments if you knew what book it was based on the emojis that I picked. But the first two that were up against each other were Heartless by Elsie Silver and Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I'm embarrassed at how long this book has been on my TBR, like literally since last year. And if we look at the poll results, I will put it up on screen. Tress of the Emerald Sea won. I think it might be because for Heartless, I did an electric guitar. It has a guitar on the cover, so I was like, well, I have to put a guitar, and they only had the electric one. At least that's the only one I could find. So maybe that threw people off because I know that y'all really want me to read this book. Tress won. So I'm excited. This will be my second Brandon Sanderson book. The first one was Warbreaker, and I didn't have the best experience with it. I think I gave it 3 stars. So hopefully Tress of the Emerald Sea hits a little bit harder for me. The next books that were up against each other were The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo and The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. This poll was actually very, very close. It was the closest one, and I feel like it's because my emojis for The Familiar were a little bit obvious. So if we look at the results, The Familiar will be our next book that was chosen for this vlog. And then the last one won by a landslide, and I don't know if it's because I picked bad emojis for Paladin's Grace, but we'll see. So these next two were A Promise of Peridot by Kate Golden and Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. Like I mentioned, A Promise of Peridot won because there were so little votes for Paladin's Grace. I think I did this one dirty with the emojis that I picked, but who knows. So these are the 3 that we'll be reading this week. I'm very excited. We have 2 new releases and 1 book that has been on my TBR for a very long time. So the pressure to read this because y'all picked it is very welcomed. I won't have to feel ashamed of myself avoiding this book at all costs anymore. I do have the audiobook for this one, so I think this is where we're going to start for the week. I think some immersive reading will do my brain well, and we will start off strong. Because this is not at all what I was expecting, but in like a really great way. The writing style is so charming, like it's just making me smile as I read it, and hopefully that continues, but it is, oh my gosh, I love it. And the audiobook is so performative. Like, the narrator does a really great job bringing that lightheartedness and that tone into his reading. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But I need to give a synopsis for this book, and I recognize that, but I wanted to read a little bit of it first to be able to put the synopsis more into my words instead of like reading it. I don't even know where to start with a synopsis for this. Oh my gosh. I think the thing that's most shocking is the world that it's taking place in and the details about the world. It's not at all what I was expecting. So I'm gonna continue reading more before I give a synopsis, but I just needed to check in about the current state of shock that I'm in a good way. A quick reading break because I have a very exciting package. So I used to be subscribed to Fairy Loot. I decided to subscribe again when they put out their romantasy book only box. And I'm very intrigued at what this month's book is going to be because I think it's Enchanted Fae. I'm very excited. They have the prettiest special editions. Yes, so Enchanted Fae. Ooh, interesting. Some cutie fan art. Can you guess what it is from the fan art? The back is pretty. Okay, let's look at the cover. Oh my gosh, it is so pretty. The end pages with the mushrooms. Look at those! Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. Absolutely obsessed. The end pages have foiling on them. Literally stop it right now. Oh my gosh, they're so stunning. Wow. Does the naked book? That is so Gorgina. I'm obsessed with this. And they gave us, oh my gosh, gorgeous. And it's signed by the author as well. This was a very highly anticipated release for many people. I don't know how well it's been received. I haven't really seen anyone talking about it. Worried is that I think there's 2 love interests, and I feel like every single book that I've been reading lately has a love triangle, and I don't like love triangles. So let's see. A stunning romantasy debut about an enchanted library. I didn't know I had an enchanted library. An enchanted library, 2 handsome fae, and 1 human who brings them all together. A library with deadly enchantment, a fae lord who wants in, a human woman willing to risk it all for a taste of power. In a land ruled by ruthless fae, 21-year-old Lore Alameyu's village is trapped in a forested prison. Lore knows that any escape attempt is futile. Her scars are a testament to her past failures, but when her village is threatened, Lore makes a desperate deal with a fae lord. She will leave her home to catalog/organize an enchanted library that hasn't been touched in 1,000 years. No fae may enter the library, but there is a chance a human might be able to breach the cursed doors. She convinces him that she will risk her life for wealth, but really she's after one thing the fae covet above all, magic of her own. As Lore navigates the hostile world outside, she's forced to rely on 2 fae males to survive. 2 very different, very dangerous, very attractive fae males. When undeniable chemistry ignites, she's not just in danger of losing her life, but her heart to the very creatures she can never trust. It is pitched as a young adult. I kind of wish that this was like a new adult book, like a new adult Why Choose, you know what I mean? Very interesting. Okay, Lore of the Wild. Now back to the TBR for this video. Hi besties, quick check-in because I am now 27% of the way through Tress of the Emerald Sea. So I wanted to do a little bit of a reading update, but also for his birthday, I asked for a Ninja Creamy and he'd been asking for it for literally so long. And I was like, we don't need an ice cream maker. It's basically just like a really powerful blender that can make like ice cream. It can make really good like acai bowls. I was like, we don't need this in our lives. And he was like, I really want one. So for his birthday, I got him one. And I just made ice cream with it for the first time. I made non-dairy coffee ice cream. This is so delicious. I'm eating my words. I feel bad that I told him we couldn't get one for like a really long time because this is so good. So I just made ice cream because my dinner is cooking and I'm really, really hungry. I'm roasting a chicken tonight and it's gonna take another hour in the oven. So I was like, I'm gonna make some ice cream to Tress. So I am now on, hold on, I was listening to the audiobook while I was getting dinner ready. I'm now on part 4, chapter 22. I'm really enjoying the writing style of this book. I love the characters, I love the dialogue. I absolutely think it's a strength of Brandon Sanderson because I did really like the characters in Warbreaker as well. Warbreaker also started off really strong for me, and then when I was getting halfway through the book and 75% of the way through the book, and then at the end, I was very disappointed with what was happening with the plot. But this one is very fun so far. So a little synopsis. Our main character's name is Tress. She lives on this island rock that has a lot of resources, but it's not a nice place to live. There's always like smog in the air. You can't grow anything because it's like a literal actual rock. Everything is really salty there. They have to salt their water and their drinks and their food because the Emerald Sea that she lives on isn't actually made of water. It's made of these like particles that are very dangerous and toxic to breathe in, because basically whenever one of these particles hits like water or a liquidy substance like sweat or blood, or if it goes in your mouth and it hits your saliva, it sprouts into this big vine. And so basically if you like breathe one of these in and it hits your saliva, a vine will explode through your face and you will die. So that is the surprising part that I wasn't expecting. I feel like I maybe heard about that before coming in, but I was relatively unaware of the world. So this is definitely leaning much more sci-fi than what I was anticipating. However, I'm still really enjoying it. The narrator, like I mentioned before, is such a performative narrator that it makes it really fun, and he's giving great life to these characters that even if you were reading this book physically, the dialogue gives these characters so much personality. Like the way that you get to know these characters, it's incredible. It really is. I'm gonna try to read up to page 150 today. I think that will be a good little chunk. Actually, maybe a little past. Just because I'm having a lot of fun. If you're a veteran on my channel, you know how terrified I get of sci-fi. And so the fact that this is leaning a little bit more sci-fi, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. I don't want to forget any details. I want to just like keep a nice fast pace with it. I have a reading update about Tress of the Emerald Sea because I only have 50 or 60 pages left. It has been such a fast read. I will say the middle of the book for me was similar to what happened to me with Warbreaker. There's definitely been some moments that have just lost me. I feel like, and not entirely, it was just like, okay, I can't wait to get through these like 2 pages until we transition back into more like interesting topics. The only thing that I haven't really loved about this book is how like science-y it gets regarding the spores. I think I called them particles last time. The sea and like the seas of this world, I said that they were made of particles instead of like liquid like water. They're actually spores, and then they grow into the huge vines that I was talking about. And like overall, it's not like for lack of understanding. Like I understand that stuff that's going on, but they're talking about certain little like inventions and things. Like Tress has been sailing with these pirates and finding herself in increasingly not like more tense situations, but she's really trying to be this little secret squirrel master manipulator to get where she wants to go to save her love interest Charlie, who was captured by this evil sorceress. And she's doing a great job, and it's so much fun, and the characters are some of the most fun characters I think I've ever read. And I feel like this book is giving me the confidence to start other Brandon Sanderson series, because right now I've only read 2 standalones by Brandon Sanderson because I'm so terrified, even though he's so well loved. It's not that I'm scared his writing won't be good and his characters won't be good in his like fantasy series. I'm just very intimidated by him and his series because they lean a little bit more sci-fi than what I'm used to, but I feel like this was a really good, it's tough to say intro book because I have like read his writing before. However, I feel like Warbreaker wasn't as sci-fi as this book currently is. So I'm super excited to finish it. I think I only have an hour left in the audiobook, so we will def finish her today. I think it's leaning like a 4-star, maybe a high 4-star, like a 4.5, just because I love the character so much. I love Huck, and then I'm very curious about Hoyd because he's the narrator of this book. This book is told in a third-person perspective. Actually, no, it's told in a second-person perspective, which is always the weirdest narration style in my opinion, but it's done really well. There's times when it feels like it's third person. However, the narrator does talk to you as the reader at certain points, and it's not a lot, but it is present. I'm very curious about Hoyd if he's in other books, because as the narrator of this story, even though Tress is the main character, he just offers like a really interesting and funny, such a funny perspective. Like all of the humor in this book, I mean, I'm sure you saw in the clips I filmed of myself reading when I was first starting the book, I'm literally smiling to myself like an idiot. Like I'm definitely loving it so much. Are there books where he follows Hoyd and we get like more of his story? Because I feel like that would be so fun, and that might be like the next book that I read of Brandon Sanderson's, or like the first official series that I read from Brandon Sanderson, because Hoyd is just giving me life. But besides that, I'm gonna let you go and finish getting ready. I'm gonna listen to the end of this audiobook and I will follow up with my final star rating. And then I'm trying to decide what I want to read next. I'm kind of leaning more towards The Familiar because I'm just so excited to read another Leigh Bardugo book, and the standalones have been hitting lately, so I might do that. Hi besties, I just finished listening to Tress and I did want to do just a little bit of an update with final thoughts. I think I'm gonna give this 5 stars. Like, I enjoyed it all the way through, and even though it was outside of my comfort zone, I'm so intrigued to continue reading Brandon Sanderson after reading this book. The only thing I'm conflicted about, not about this, but about Brandon Sanderson, is that like he explicitly mentioned in his postscript at the end of the book that he was aiming for whimsical. He was aiming for something very Princess Bride-esque in terms of like the humor, and that's everything that I loved about this book. I loved the characters, I loved the lightheartedness, I loved the whimsy. I thought it was perfection. I looked up Hoyd because I couldn't not. I was so curious. And Hoyd, most of y'all probably know this, as someone who is uncultured in the literary works of Brandon Sanderson, Hoyd is a character who shows up in like almost all of his stories, and he says in the postscript of this book that one day he wants to write from his perspective fully, and this was his like entry point into doing that, except this is going to be much more whimsical than what he wants Hoyd's POV to be like down the line. So he was like, this was kind of just a playful experiment about Tress's story and about Charlie's story, and Hoyd is just like there telling the whole thing. Oh my gosh, I literally can't not smile when I'm talking about this. It's so fun, it's so full circle. I'm so surprised at everything that Brandon Sanderson was able to accomplish in a book that's less than 400 pages. This book is 365 pages. It is adventurous. It's kind of giving Lucky Novice. Tress is just bumbling her way through things, but she is a smarty pants, but also like things just work out for her along the way. The quest element of this was so much fun. Like the fact that I talk about this book and it just makes me smile, it has to be a 5-star read. Period, end of story. So that's where we're at with this. Very strong start to this vlog. I'm so happy that y'all voted on this one. And now I am going to officially start reading The Familiar. The Familiar, and it is a very positive update. I am on page 178. I am eating this book up. I love it so much. I love being back in Leigh Bardugo's brain. I love how she does adult fantasies. Like, she just does it so well. One of the reasons I'm loving this so much is because, to me, it seems like she loves writing a mentor-mentee type dynamic, because in Ninth House we got the Darlington and Alex setup, which lives in my mind rent-free every single day. I nonstop think about them. Darlington is one of my top book boyfriends. It's not exactly the same. It's definitely unique in The Familiar, because The Familiar is like this being that we don't fully understand, but I'm obsessed with them. Literally obsessed with them. I forget if I gave a synopsis for this book. So basically, we're following our main character, Lucia. We are in Spain a long time ago. Couldn't pinpoint an exact year for you because we haven't been given an exact year, but they say they're in the new capital of Madrid, so I have to assume that's a long time ago. Around the Spanish Inquisition. That seems to be our only grounding historical moment. Lucia is, I call her a scullion, but she's like a housemaid. She is very low class. She's very upset about her lifestyle, and she really wants to try to do something to be able to boost her social status, because she's tired and she feels like she doesn't deserve to like sleep on the floor of this house and be treated less than human, basically. So she has this little bit of magic that she uses to do little things around the house. Like, the chef burns the bread and she will use her magic, they call them little miracles, to unburn the bread and make it come out like perfectly. Or if a glass breaks, she'll be able to like fix the glass. The lady of the house discovers that she can do these little miracles. Lady of the house also wants to increase her social status, so she starts to flaunt these little magical miracles. Word spreads and they capture the attention of Antonio Perez, who is the disgraced secretary to Spain's king. The king is desperate for any advantage in the war against England, and Perez will do anything to get back into the good graces of the king. Perez is trying to find people of this magical nature to give them like a secret edge against this war with England. It is very interesting, and I know that that sounds like it's leaning very historical and that might be scary. It's truly not. Like, once you're reading it, it doesn't read that way. All of the facts are introduced in a very approachable manner. There was no info dumping in this. I think that's one of the most shocking things to me so far. The magic, you just kind of learn as you go, because our main character, Lucia, doesn't know about her own magic, and so you're kind of learning it with her, and she's learning about this apparently like hidden magical world as we go. So it's so approachable. I think it's written so well. You know me, I am just an absolute slut for a character-driven story. But there's undertones of religion in this as well, because Spain is so Christian. One thing that I didn't know, and I was thinking about looking a little more into this because I feel like it's an important thing to know. The Spanish Inquisition, when I think of that, I think of like them going to conquer other lands. But during the Spanish Inquisition, Christianity was like really taking hold of Spain and then also Portugal, from what I've learned in here. They were not nice, and that's putting it very lightly, to the Jewish people of Spain and Portugal. They were killing Jewish people and or forcing them to convert to Christianity. But even when they did convert to Christianity, if there was ever any slight doubt, like if this person misses church for one day, 1 week, whatever it is, they would kill them. And Lucia has Jewish roots, so she's terrified that if people like find out her heritage as her notoriety is growing, she will get killed or worse. Everything is just tied together so perfectly, and also this book has gorgeous end pages of pomegranates. The symbolism of the pomegranates, there's like a specific scene that happens. I was like, Leigh Bardugo put on her literary achievement queen crown when she was writing this book. I'm just in shock and awe. So safe to say, I'm really, really enjoying it. I only have, I know this sounds like a long time, but I only have about 4 hours left of the audiobook. And when I sit down to read, I fly through this. So I'm hoping I will be able to finish it today, but I will check in when I read a little bit more. And I'm sorry that this has been an 8-minute update. I'm so sorry. Check-in for the familiar. I have about an hour left in the audiobook. I'm about to start listening to it right now, and we're going to finish her today. I am so obsessed. Now I'm really upsetty spaghetti that this is going to be a standalone, but I have a feeling I know why, and I'm really terrified, but also I'm really excited to get to the end just to see what happens. I have a feeling that this isn't going to be a happy ending. Planning to start A Promise of Peridot today. I keep going back and forth between what I want to call it, peridot, peridot, whatever it is. I don't know how far I will get in this book today because it is Ross's birthday weekend, so we are celebrating him today, and we're doing like a movie afternoon, and then we're going to dinner later tonight. So I will be reading her, I will be starting her. I don't know how far I will get. A Dawn of Onyx read very, very quickly. I will be reading this on our Sunday sprints tomorrow morning though, so that should help me get a decent chunk through. I just finished. I have had 12 5-star reads this year, given some of those were rereads of like my absolute favorite books like Empire of the Vampire and House of Earth and Blood. 12 5-star reads this year. This is my favorite book so far of 2024. I have no words. I did just write my Goodreads review, but this is an actual masterpiece, and I will not be taking any negative commentary now or literally ever about this book. Leigh Bardugo's adult fantasy just does something for me because she is so good at writing about the occult, kind of like I guess I would call this like writing about the occult. This book has a very similar tone and mood to Ninth House and Hellbent. Dark, and it has undertones of like demons and the devil. All of her magic in her books has this undertone of, is this good or is this bad? And yet, even though all of her characters are morally gray, like she never writes a perfect character, perfect in terms of their morality and like they're on the right path and they do everything right. Like all of her characters are so real and they all have such imperfections that make them so human, and the way that their flaws help them to navigate their story in their own way. Oh my gosh, it's just so perfect. Please just read this book. was reading A Promise of Peridot on sprints this morning, so I am now 75 pages in. I was not super focused on sprints, if I'm being honest. The first 75 pages, I was a little bit worried because I did not want to reread A Dawn of Onyx, which I think I talked about. What I ended up doing was just reading the summary for this book on Goodreads. To be fair, I absolutely could have just read the back, but I read the summary for this book, which I think for me, you know, A Dawn of Onyx wasn't overly complex or anything. There was just a lot that happened right at the end of that book. But between reading the summary and the little bit of recap that we got in the first couple chapters, I feel like I have a pretty good lay of the land. Is it perfect? No, but I'm not too concerned, and I feel like I'm gonna get or remember more of the details as I continue reading. I'm really enjoying the dynamic between Arwen and Cain. In this one, we have an enemies to lovers setup. Actually, we had an enemies to lovers setup in the first book, and now they've kind of reverted back to that in this one, which is really fun. We're getting an extremely atmospheric new kingdom. It's very summery as well. I feel like this will be a really good read for summer with the current kingdom that they're in. Trying to keep this as vague as possible because it is the second book. I stick by what I said in my review of A Dawn of Onyx. The writing style in this is so easy to understand. It's giving Kindle Unlimited romantasy writing style, if that means anything to you. And so I don't think that it's going to be for everyone. It's a bit simple. It's kind of like fun, silly, goofy, fast-paced, along for the ride. I'm here for it. I feel like I can read this really fast as well. Like, even though I wasn't the most focused human in the whole world on those reading sprints, I still read 75 pages. Because I immersive read Tress and The Familiar, I feel like my brain is getting back into the just like normal physical reading mode. As Steph from Steph Bookish calls it, I'm raw dogging A Promise of Peridot. And so my brain is just adjusting a little bit. We have finished her just now, like maybe a couple minutes ago, and I'm a bit undecided about how I feel. The ending got much more dark than I was expecting it to. I'm hopeful that the final book will be a bit better than how I felt about this one. I think my biggest issues with this book, mainly Arwen, but a little bit of Cain, just because I didn't love their dynamic in this book. Arwen annoyed me throughout. I'm not the biggest fan of her at this point. It was the self-pity and like self-loathing over things that didn't make any sense. I don't feel like she had a great character arc. I don't feel like she had a big transformation. It kind of just happened all at once. She had this moment of acceptance, and that's when it kind of flipped. I will say, I think the plot in this was really fun. I liked the different places that we got to go. I especially like the place where we end. I think that that will be interesting to experience in the third book. But I'm hovering between a 3-star and a 3.5 star. My enjoyment level was probably a 3. I don't know, I think I'm gonna go with a 3-star and just trust my gut on this, because this definitely wasn't my favorite read, but it wasn't bad. And my 3 stars mean it was good, not great, and that's pretty much how I feel about A Promise of Peridot. But honestly, I can't be mad at 2 5-star reads in a video. I'm definitely going to do this again because y'all know how to pick books for me, apparently. So thank you so much if you voted. I hope that you had fun watching. If you did, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I will catch you in the comments, and I will see you in my next one. Toodles!